Hello folks, this is a tractor parade here.
And they build tractors with just small little things to try to compete with the big guys. A lot of them weren't very successful. So we're kind of featuring that in our lesser known classics. We've also got a great bunch of what we call prairie tractors. Big powerhouse tractors that were used out in the prairie land. This next piece coming through here is a long-time tractor here at the Rock River Treasury. We've expended just about every one of the 68 shows we've ever had. This is a case of the model 2040. It's a two-cylinder engine. There's one engine pointing forward and there's one pointing backward into the cab. This one is owned by the Reed family. The Reeds have been involved with it for a long time. Brian, his dad, Ed, and his grandfather Frank have been involved with this show for many, many years. They serve as directors and officers here at the camp. We're happy to have this tractor here as part of this year, the 1919 2040 case owned by the Reed family. Next we have an Allen Truman. Now this is kind of unique to time. I think back in 1919 when this tractor was built, the farmers were used to riding on an implement maybe pulled by a team of horses. So what Allen Truman did is they designed this tractor. The farmers were very skeptical and they designed this with an idea in mind that you could still sit on your implement and drive it just as if you were driving a team of horses. This is the model 612 Allen Truman tractor built in West Allen, Wisconsin, and more minded out of Davis, Illinois, is doing the driving today. Next we have another one of our feature tractors here this year. This is a Nichols and Shepherd tractor. This is a 2550 Nichols and Shepherd. This tractor is owned by the Jared Rubel Foundation from Forest City, Iowa. Jared Rubel and his wife were big-time collectors out in Iowa. Their home show was the Forest City, Iowa show. Jared and their wife have both since passed away. And what they've done is they've created this foundation to allow shows throughout the country to borrow tractors from their collection to have on the ground. So the Rock River Treasury is one of the first clubs to apply for the tractor loan through the foundation. This is one of the tractors from the Rubel Foundation. This is a Nichols and Shepherd gasoline tractor built in Battle Creek, Michigan. Nichols and Shepherd was later part of a merger with the Oliver Chilled Plow Works, the Red River Special Line, and they were formed together to form the Oliver Corporation. So this is the forerunner of the Oliver tractor. This is part of the Rubel Foundation, and Connor Esch and his fiancée Adriana are doing the driving. Next we have an early 2040 case. This one's got the square radiator. Now the exhaust goes out through the radiator and up through the stack. They're open on the bottom, and what that does is it creates a draft and cools these engines. This is a 1950 2040 case. This one was once owned by George Edgerton out of Davis Junction, Illinois. George had his own show down there. It was called the Hickory Grove Show down in Davis Junction, and this was part of his collection. It's now owned by Scott Stamstead out of Cambridge, Wisconsin, and has great Stamstead doing the driving today. Next we have another great piece from the Rubel collection. This is a Fairbanks Norse tractor. Yep, Fairbanks Norse, built in Beloit, Wisconsin. This is a single-cylinder engine. This is what we call a hit and miss. You'll notice when this tractor sits here, it just kind of coats, and when it needs to fire and pick up RPM, it'll fire one time just to pick up the RPM. And once he starts up the hill, you'll hear it, it'll fire every time. This is a Fairbanks Norse, part of the Rubel collection, and Scott Stamstead is doing the driving today. Now that's the radiator on the front. What'll happen is as it gets hot, that water starts to boil in there, and it thermal siphons through that top hose, or top pipe there, and it runs down the screen, and that's how that's cooled. Now this is basically a Fairbanks North stationary engine that they mounted on some wheels. Rumley oil pull line. So when Rumley started building their oil pull tractors, they built what was called the heavyweight series of tractors. And this was the granddaddy of the heavyweight series. This is the 3060 Model E oil pull. It's 2 cylinders, 30 horsepower on the drawbar, 60 horsepower on the belt. This is another one of the tractors that we have on loan from the Ruble Family Foundation out of Forest City, Iowa. These 4 tractors will be on loan to the Treasury for our next 3 shows. So come back each year. They got this tractor on the sawmill this morning, did a real nice job. We're hoping to be able to take some of these tractors out to the plow field later on this weekend. It's a 3060 Rumley oil pull. You start it by stepping out here on the wheel, and you actually rock in the flywheel on this side to get this tractor started. Jamie Stevenson is our resident oil pull guy. He's behind the steering wheel. And that's Warren Lufborough is up there along for the ride. Now this is a lot slower pace than Warren's used to. Warren's the tractor pull guy. They run the 466 hot bar with the Bagger State tractor pullers. So Warren's used to going down the track with the fans on fire. So this is a pretty slow ride for Warren here today. So in the heavyweight line, the 3060 was the biggest. The next step down was the 2040. Now, Rumley Oil Pull was the first tractor manufacturer to utilize automotive style steering. Otherwise, all the early tractors still had a straight front axle that was steered with chains. As I said, Rumley Oil Pull was the first to utilize automotive style steering. Now, this is a great example of an unrestored original Rumley Oil Pull. This one is also owned by Jamie Stevenson out of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, and his son's doing the driving today. But the new trend in collecting old tractors is to try to find these original ones, and they can only be original one time. Once you paint them, they're no longer original. This is a great example of an original Rumley oil pull that's never been restored. These are all 2-cylinder engines, horizontal. They're actually those big square tanks in the front are full of oil. They were filled with oil. So these tractors were very popular, especially up in Canada and up north, where you could run them in the wintertime and not have to worry about your water freezing in the radiator. So that's why they're called oil pulls. They were cooled with oil, and again, the exhaust goes out that stack, and they're open underneath, and it draws the air up through them. Now, after the heavyweight line of tractors, Rumley went to the lightweight, or the superpower, was the last 2 series of oil pulls. This is a Model X oil pull. 2540 is the horsepower. This one was owned by Red Nelson, a longtime member here at the Threshery. It's still part of the family collection. It's owned and operated by his grandson, Jason Stewart, today. Next we have Ed Cook out of Evansville, Wisconsin. Ed's on his Haas Model D. Again, I talked about right after the war, everybody wanted to get into tractor manufacturing. They saw there was a need for the small farmer to have a tractor, and everybody wanted their piece of the pie. So these tractors were kind of a composite tractor. They bought their engines from a company, the rear end came from another company, and they assembled them in Racine, Wisconsin, and sold them as the Haas tractor. This is the Haas Model D, owned and operated by Ed Cook out of Evansville, Wisconsin. That's telling me this one was sold right here in New Janesville, and there was 301 made and 200 of them were shipped overseas. Sounds good, thanks, Ed. Next comes our steam engine portion of the parade. This one is also falls into that, I don't like to use the term oddball and orphan, that lesser known classic category kind of deal. So this is an Altman Taylor engine. This is an 18 horsepower Altman Taylor. Very unique. There's only 3 running 18 horse Altman Taylors known anywhere in the country, and we're lucky enough to have one of them here at the show. This was built in Mansfield, Ohio. One of our longtime members, Jim Tesh, owned this engine for a few years, and is now owned by another longtime member here in the Rock River Nursery, and that's Paul Garrity behind the controls. The 18 horse Altman Taylor, owned by the Garritys out of Lakeville, Wisconsin. the club engine. This engine is owned by the Rock River Threshery. A gentleman by the name of Henry Ramich owned this engine for many years. And when he passed, the family donated this engine to the club. And the club for the engine for a while kind of got neglected. Nobody really took care of it. And then several years ago, the Rickard family from down in Illinois took this engine under their belt. Several years ago, they took it home and restored this engine. And then a few years ago, the engine required some boiler work. Now, when these engines were built over 100 years ago, these engineers never expected us to be a group of crazy people that collected these things and showed them off. So they weren't intended to be around for 100 years. So these boilers, all the boilers you'll see here on the showgrounds, they are all inspected by the state every year for safety. So this one had to have some boiler work done. They built a brand new boiler for this engine, so it'll be around for another 100 years. And the best part is we've got the Rickard family is back in control of this engine. These guys have missed the last 4 years of the show. These are college graduates. They just graduated this spring. We are very excited to have all these college kids back here and running our engines for us. The steam hobby and the antique tractor hobby definitely still does have a future here at the Rock River Threshery. So that is a 20 horsepower Advanced Rumley engine built by the Advanced Rumley. So Advanced Rumley, while they were making the oil pull tractor, they were still making steam engines at the same time. That was all at that transition period as the steam engines were kind of getting phased out and the gas tractors were taking over. Next we have a K-steam engine. This one was built in 1917. This is an 80 horsepower K-steam engine. This is owned by the Esch family out of Yorkville, Wisconsin. Clayton Esch is driving. Clayton's here from Boone, Iowa. So run the engine for the family this year. Marcia Esch is on the back, and I think I see Becky Weber up there too. So it's an 80 horsepower K-steam engine owned by the Esch family out of Yorkville, Wisconsin, and Boone, Iowa.
It's kind of an interesting one, a boring traction. Oh, I see it had plows on the bottom. There's a Wisconsin Tiger. Nice steam traction.